Yeshua, your King of praise. Shalom, everyone. This is Messianic Rabbi Buzz Tremé, the Jew teaching you. Welcome to our Bible study. Yeshua, you are the way. Yeshua. Okay. He said, well, then why was there another priest? So Yeshua, it says in chapter 2 that after he had conquered, he put down the power of death. The power of death was defeated at the cross, and so then he was qualified. He earned his stripes. He achieved the right to be the high priest. Therefore, he knows your weaknesses, and he can surely help you out and give you some mercy when you need it. That's what the Bible says. He's not sitting up there, well, if you were only as good as me. He knows you're not. But he says, accept what I did for you. I love weak people. I came to help weak people. Oh, boy, I'm glad, huh? And so he then ascended, and it says, he therefore became the high priest of that eternal order. And you say, well, who are those guys? Very interesting. We don't know who the 24 elders are. And we try to say, well, I think they were some Old Testament kings or something. We just always want to read into it our own version. You think God only has humanity? The angelic force, and the word angel in Hebrew, malak, the word for business is malakah. Malakah, you get the I on the end, it shows you it's a noun, and it's like the subject. But a malach is one who does the malachah. It means he's God's business guys. He's God's workers. He's the guys that come down from the sky and do God's bidding here. They're sky-based workers. And they're called B'nai Elohim, sons of God. Guess who we are? We're a different species, and we all happen to look similar. God's design. We're different species, but we're called the sons of God, B'nai Elohim, and we're earth-based workers. So we're the Malachim doing the work here. Now, the Greek, a lot of the Greek teaching got into New Testament Bible schools, and they always say, well, angel just, angelos is the Greek word. Angelos just simply means a messenger. No. That's way out of balance. Actually, the root is the Old Testament malach, and it means one who does God's bidding, does His business. They come here and serve God. And guess what? They were over us for a long time, but God's plan was to raise up mankind where they would serve Him. And Yeshua has already made the trip. He's number one on the throne. He's saying, hey, come on. There's room for all of you. I've prepared a place for you. And the angels will bow to us. They will do it. So they're not just messengers, but they're workers. Well, we're workers too, but we happen to be earth-based. And this thing all works together. Isn't this good stuff? And this is Bible. We need to understand it because it makes your life a lot easier. This doesn't mean you go around all the time talking to your angels. Get into weirdness, you end up talking to somebody you don't want to talk to. But if one happens to appear to you, well, first of all, you need to talk to him about Yeshua and see how he feels about it. And if he disagrees that Yeshua is Lord, then you need to cast him out of your presence in the name of Yeshua. But if he falls down and worships with you, Yeshua, well, you've got an angel present. Talk to him, find out what he's doing here. The Bible says that sometimes you're entertaining these guys unaware. Okay, because they look like us. And by the way, they're all masculine. Interesting, huh? Okay, just want you to know these things because now you won't be ignorant of the good things of God. All right, so we could go on and on about the Melchizedek order because here's where it talks about it. And he talks about in chapter 7 and chapter 8 and 9, he talks about the old order being archaic. It did not have the power to get anybody saved. The law couldn't do it. Why not? It was never designed to. And God had given it to the people, but something was wrong with the people. they couldn't measure up to it. I could give my Tundra, my truck. I have a Toyota Tundra, it's a year old. It's a nice vehicle. If I die, I could leave it well, I guess there are cats. We have cats that come up to the house and we feed them, and we like them because they take care of the little things, that might come around, snakes. But can you imagine in my will if I left my truck to some cats? People would say, how stupid, because they can't drive. All of them could get in the cab. They still couldn't do it, could they? Well, God gave a righteous law with a high, high standard. And this is in Romans 8, if you want to read it. It's in Romans 8, in the very beginning. And it says, but because of the sin nature of man, it was impossible for him to attain that high standard. The righteousness of God could not be reached through the law because the law was given to weak people. What did God do to solve the problem? He condemned the sin nature. He sent His Son to say, hey, I declare it null and void, powerless. It will no longer determine their outcome. But faith in me will determine their outcome, and it's a good outcome. So what God did was destroy the sin nature by the act of Jesus Christ, not by your good acts. You only do good acts because you're in love with Him. You want to show Him you appreciate it. You can't save yourself. He's saving you. You put your faith in Him. If your faith stops being in Him to save you and turns to something else, maybe your own works, then guess what? You're saved by faith, but if that faith is not there, you're lost by not having faith. So the Bible says if we have faith that we had at the beginning, at the end, if we endure. So it doesn't mean that you get better at being a good person. Of course you always want to be good. You try your best, but you never put stock in yourself. You put all your stock in Yeshua, Jesus Christ. Isn't that good? So therefore you can go, whew, He's a good God. All the burden is on Him. And He doesn't get up every morning when you get up worried about the bills and doctor's appointments and, oh man, and political, oh God, is China going to strike us? Is Russia going, oh man. You can think about that all the time. You shouldn't, but He doesn't. He gets up and says, yep, Father's entrusted everything to me, and today, let's see, in keeping with my plans, I'm going to move this power over here and raise this one up. And the next thing you know, things start happening. He is not going to let His plan be jeopardized by humans. God has got this, and we need to trust Him. Don't worry. What will cause your destruction and cause you to fall away, according to Yeshua, is the cares and the worries of the world. When you start letting the news channel make you lose sleep at night, you know what? I put it on Facebook yesterday, I think. When you read the bad news or you watch it, it's so disheartening. I know. Make you want to cry. It's like our country is so tore up from the floor up. You know, how did these people ever get in authority that are doing these ugly things to our society, our children? But stop and think about the time you were born again. I remember, I was a Christian dedicated to the Lord as a child, as a baby, but as I got older, I got wayward. You know, and as a man, I had to stop thinking like a little boy and start thinking about this being Christian thing. And as I began to inquire and read the Bible, I started seeing things that I'd never seen as a little boy in Sunday school. And it's not that that was wrong and this was right, it's just that I was a little boy. But once I was a grown man, and I was actually 32 years old when I encountered the Lord full force, and I was ready to do anything and everything to make sure my name was in His book of life. And through the process, He saw my seriousness, and I was in my backyard in a little workshop, And suddenly there before me is this man taking a beating, and he had his hands tied to a post above his head, and there was a whip being hit. In fact, the guy must have been left-handed, because I'm standing here, and this man is, with his hands against this post, is taking these stripes across the back, and every time that heavy weight hit him, his body jolted, and it kind of knocked him against the post, and I could just see the reaction from the pain, and then it drew back. This was in my shop in the backyard at our house as I was begging God to save me, and suddenly I saw this, and I watched it. I couldn't figure out how I could see it. I just know I saw it. And then it suddenly changed, and the man was no longer being whipped, but he's walking right in front of me with this heavy cross. And he was all beat up, and he turned his face right toward me and looked at me. And he didn't look like, "It's okay, Buzz. You're good to go." He looked at me, and his eyes said this. Not words, but his eyes said, "Don't you take lightly what they are doing to me. They're killing me." I fell down on the floor crying, saying I didn't know it was this serious. I didn't know. All I could say over and over, "I didn't know it was this serious. I'm so sorry." I cried and I cried. And he walked away with this cross, and he turned back and he looked at me and he stared at me, and he didn't look at me like, "Buzz, you're an exception. You're just so awesome. You're just such a wonderful guy." He looked at me like, "Yeah, will you really?" Because I was saying, "I will follow you. I will follow you. I'm so sorry. I took it lightly. I did not know how serious it was." And he just kept looking at me like, "Will you?" And then suddenly that changed. That scene changed. I couldn't figure out how I was seeing it. All I knew I was convulsing in tears. Looked up, and there was a cross, and there was a man hanging. And I knew I was in my backyard, in my workshop, but there was that man hanging. You'll never tell me I didn't see what I saw and felt what I felt. And I saw the blood pouring down from his body. And all I could do was just kneeling on the floor, cry, and just convulse. I'd never been so broken. And then suddenly that vision was gone. And suddenly I felt clean. There was no remorse. There was no guilt. There was like, I've never been so clean in my life. And I jumped to my feet and I went, "What are you doing? Oh my God, I'm clean."
Oh, Yeshua.